Hello, dear ones. Greetings as we end this fifth week of Great and Holy Lent. It's hard to believe how quick it's going. I wanted to talk just a little bit today about the schedule that we keep in this kind of uncertain time of quarantine or self-quarantine or semi-quarantine, whatever level we're going into. The reality is that when we have this time of quarantine, actually it can be a little bit of a danger to us. And the reason for that is we actually have more time. I've talked to a lot of people who've told me they're saving an hour, hour and a half, sometimes more just on commute time. And so although they're working from home, they're finding that they have a lot more time to deal with. Other people are actually finding that they have less work to do from home in general. And so they have a lot more than just commute time to build up. And that can become a little bit of a problem for us if we're not careful with our time. When we have a lot of time, we run into problems. This is why many of the Desert Fathers said that having a handicraft, doing some sort of work, was really important. Ora et labora, work and prayer. These are the things that kept them going. Because once you have your hands idle, then your mind starts going all over the place. It can go to some crazy places, but also we can just find ways to kind of lazily fill our time. We want to make sure that in this time we're benefiting, we're growing, that when we walk back into the doors of church, we are better off than when we left, whether it was weeks or months ago, God willing, just weeks. We want to make sure that we had spiritually focused and that we had really cultivated our hearts and prepared ourselves to walk into God's house once again. So using our time wisely, of course, means praying, reading scriptures, doing all the things that we normally do. But if we don't set it to a schedule, it's really easy for those things to fall to the back of our minds. We get really overly focused on just kind of wasting our time away, whether that's watching TV or spending time online on social media, even reading fiction, things like that. There are a lot of things that we can actually really waste our time doing when we haven't set a proper schedule for ourselves. So it's important in this time to really set a schedule. This is not just important for families with kids, by the way. For families with kids, it's super important. It is super important to have a good schedule for your day. One of the things I really recommend is getting a big piece of poster board and actually listing out general time frames for what you'll be doing that day. What time are you getting up? What time are you doing prayers? What time are you having breakfast? What time are you doing schoolwork? What time are you taking a break? What time for lunch? If you're going to do a few midday prayers, which is a great idea. If you're going to have a rest time in the afternoon or just a quiet time. What time are you going to do your prayers at night and have dinner? What time is bedtime? And have that schedule listed out. It's actually a general help for parents just because you can look at that list when kids complain. They say, I don't want to take a nap right now. Well, let's look at the schedule. Let's see what time it is. It's actually time for that right now. So it's a help in that sense, but also it gives the kids a lot of structure. And kids want that type of structure. That structure is really helpful to them. One of the first jobs I had was working at a daycare. And there was a woman who worked at that daycare who was tough. Man, she was tough as nails. She was tough on the kids. When she said to do something, they did it. She's the one who could lose her temper quickly, but she always did it in a controlled manner, and she was pretty loving with the kids. The interesting thing was, even though she was the most strict with the kids actually gravitated towards her more than anybody else. And I came to find out that the reason for that was pretty simple. They knew exactly where they stood with her. There were no surprises. They knew what they could do and couldn't do. They knew how they should act and shouldn't act. And those clear boundaries set up for them actually made them feel really safe with her. It also meant that when she praised them and when she showed a lot of smiles, when she had a lot of fun with them, it meant a lot. And they yearned for that time for her. So when we would divide, every afternoon we would divide into groups, and everybody on staff would get whatever group came to them. She would always end up with the most kids, even if the activity that she had come up with for that day wasn't the most exciting thing. She ended up with a great deal, with the largest number of kids, simply because they loved to be around her. Again, they felt safe with her. They felt safe and loved. And so a schedule for our kids is really, really important. But we make a mistake if we think that schedule is only important if we have kids. Even if we don't have kids in the house, the schedule is important for us. Because we so easily slip off of our serious way of life. We forget about our repentance. We forget about the things that need to be done, and we just kind of lounge around lazily. So it's important to make a schedule even for ourselves. That schedule should improve what times we're having meals, what time we're getting up and going to sleep, and what times we're saying our prayers. In addition to that, I can tell you for me, every morning I try to make at least a mental list of just a few tasks that I want to get done that day. And that includes things for church, it includes household tasks, it includes things for my family, and usually it's a small amount that's very manageable, but it just keeps me focused. I remind myself, I don't have time. I don't have time for pleasure reading. I don't have time to sit and lounge around until everything is done that needs to get done. And even when I do have a little bit of extra time, at least my mindset then is I want to do something beneficial. And I'm sure many of you already know this, but when you have a day where you've completed a lot, by the end of that day, you lay down on your pillow and you feel accomplished. You feel like you gave that day purpose and you feel good about yourself. Whereas if you did that a lot that day that was just lounging around, if you spent a lot of time just kind of messing around on your phone, if you spent a lot of time just wasting the day away, you don't feel so great about yourself. You don't feel so great about your day. You don't feel so great about how you spent your time. So we really need to keep focused. And we should be practical about it. We should be extremely practical about it. One of the pieces of advice I give to a lot of people just about their prayer time is we have these wonderful and terrible little devices that we keep in our pockets and keep by our sides, and this is the precious. We never want to get rid of this. So utilize it for good. One of the things I have on mine, right there, 9:30 every single day, 9:30 p.m. my alarm goes off. What did that tell me? It's time to go do your evening prayers. It's time to do evening prayers. And so I have this reminder right there with me. And really, I can utilize that for a lot of things I do during the day, making sure that I keep myself scheduled and I feel accomplished at the end of the day. Now, setting aside an hour just to say, hey, during that hour, I'm going to sit back, I'm going to read a book just for fun. That's fine. But that stuff should really come after we've spent the day wisely. So spend your time wisely, especially in this quarantine period. But also, if you're not used to keeping a schedule like that, use this to learn how to keep it properly. Use this time wisely. Develop some really good habits, because a day that's well structured makes sure that we have a day that's well spent. Now, are things going to come up? Are things going to come up that it's going to ruin that schedule? Of course. But as long as we have that main structure there, as long as we have that framework, then when things kind of fall apart or surprises happen, it's not such a big deal, because we find out where we can get back on track if we can, and if we can't, the next day we just start anew. So dear ones, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. What do the saints say? What do we see on the scroll of our Father Seraphim Rose up right there? It's later than you think. It's later than you think. At some point, we will be on our deathbeds. We will be breathing our last breath, and we will want to make sure that we spent our entire lives wisely. How do you spend years wisely? By learning to spend hours wisely. Learn to wisely structure your day, and the years will take care of themselves. That's how we can be certain that we're spending our time wisely and putting God first before all else. So dear ones, use your time wisely. I'm praying for you. I'm thinking about you constantly. We're in this together. We're in this together, even if we have to be mainly separated from each other. So keep checking in on one another. Keep praying for one another. Keep participating in all the services you can by watching them online, but also by doing them in your homes. Keep doing the Sunday Typica. We'll keep sending that out. Keep up your fasting. Keep up those prostrations. Keep up that prayer of Saint Ephrem. Keep everything up and keep checking in on one another. We're in this together. But use your time wisely. Don't let this time go to waste. We just have 2 weeks left. That's it. That's it. One more week. One more week of Lent during that 40-day period, and then Holy Week. That's it. So 2 weeks, use it wisely. Be prepared so that no matter how you're going to receive Christ on Pascha, even if it's at home before your prayer corner, we receive him in the fullest way possible for us. And that means preparing this. Spend your time wisely, dear ones. Keep going. Good strength. We'll see you soon.